Mr. President. To begin, I ask unanimous consent to grant floor privileges to Christopher Creech for today, February 26, 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to conclude the debate. I believe the vote will follow these remarks. I want to thank my colleagues. 17 Democrats appeared on the floor to speak on behalf of this Senate Joint Resolution 10. I needn't repeat the comments I made at the beginning. I will be very brief. Number one, there is no energy emergency. We've established the United States is producing more energy, more oil, more gas, more renewable energy than at any time in the history of this country, and that we are now a dramatic net energy surplus nation, producing more and more energy than we consume every year. And that surplus is great because we can export to develop, both reducing the trade deficit and helping other nations wean themselves off reliance on petrodictators. Second, President Trump's energy emergency declaration is a sham. He ignores the facts of America's energy dominance in order to benefit big oil, because he told him he would do that last summer. He said, if you support me for president and invest in me, I will give you rollbacks in environmental laws on day one of my administration, and that's precisely what he did. We can tell that that's what he's doing by reading the exact terms of the energy emergency, in which he sidelines critical environmental laws so long as you're producing oil and gas, but not if you're producing wind and solar. If the president really wanted to accelerate energy, he would not leave out wind and solar. Instead, he's doing the bidding of big oil by trying to kneecap wind and solar in his energy emergency declaration. But it's more than the words on the page in the declaration, it's also in his actions. I have many projects in Virginia that have announced with great fanfare, including announced by our Republican governor, that have relied upon tax credits provided in the Inflation Reduction Act or other incentives in the bipartisan infrastructure law. These are projects all over Virginia, rural areas, urban areas, creating big jobs to create clean energy that will bring prices down. President Trump has undertaken a series of actions to put in jeopardy all these projects in Virginia, to jeopardize the jobs and to jeopardize the energy that would be produced that would lower costs. And he's done the same thing in every state in this country. And so we need to reject this energy emergency so that we can have a true energy innovation economy and bring prices down for everyday consumers. I've listened to the comments of my Republican colleagues as they have argued against my Senate Joint Resolution 10, and they basically made two arguments. The first is the argument that they don't believe renewable energy is reliable. And so for that reason, they justify the president leaving out renewable energy sources in his energy emergency order. To the contrary, 94% of the power that's been added to the American electricity grid in 2024 is wind, solar, and battery. Colleagues may stand on the floor and mouth the word that renewable energy is not reliable, but let's look at what the market is doing. And the market is investing in these energies because they are reliable, they are American, they are clean, and they are cheap. And I would venture to say that those investing in these sources are more experts about what's reliable and what's not than members of this body, with all respect. The second argument that's being made by my colleagues is that they support all of the above energy, and they use that to argue against Senate Joint Resolution 10. My Senate Joint Resolution 10 is about all of the above energy, and it's against the notion of leaving out wind, solar, and battery technologies that are driving our green energy economy. The question is, if you're not opposing really because of reliability concerns and you're not really advocating for all of the above, what's the real source of the opposition? The real source of the opposition is this. People do not want to stand up against Donald Trump. They don't want to stand up against a president who declares a fake emergency. They don't want to stand up against a president who is unplugging jobs in their states. They don't want to stand up against a president whose actions will lead to increased energy costs for consumers. They don't want to stand up for a president that is targeting and reversing investments that they even voted for when they voted for the bipartisan infrastructure law. At some point, my question to my colleagues is, when will you stand up? How much do prices have to go up on everyday Americans before you'll stand up? How many jobs do you have to lose in your state before you're going to stand up? How many end runs of congressional statutes will you allow a president to take and be voiceless before you stand up? That's what this is about. I urge my colleagues, stand up for an American innovation energy economy. Don't let President Trump use a fake energy emergency to kneecap it. With that, Mr. President, I yield, and I yield to my